So hello there, welcome to Damien's Trains and Travels and welcome to the video. And in this video I'll be doing a review on 3 new vans that have come out in the Corgi range with Wallace and Gromit, as you can see here. So there's 3 altogether. So they've got the, if you open the pack, it's 3 vans altogether. So there's the top bun van, which was used in the film A Matter of Loaf and Death. There's the Spick Spanmobile, which was in the Big Fix-Up quite recently, and then there's one that's been made that's not actually been featured in any films at all, and it says "Cheese Please" on the van. It's not got an actual name. I suppose the Cheesemobile maybe. Obviously, Wallace is well known for his love of cheese, and what I like about it is it's got a lot of puns on it. So it says "From Brie to You," which sort of reminds me of the Chuck Brothers phrase "to me to you." Quite enjoyed Chuckle Vision when I was younger. And I say the one in the middle, the top bun van, was featured in the last ever short film they properly made, A Matter of Loaf and Death. Although Wallace and Gromit have gone on to appear in other TV commercials and that as well. But I have been told there is another Wallace and Gromit film in the works, and unfortunately, you probably know, it'd be 6 years ago now, Peter Sallis, who was the original voice of Wallace, died in 2017. He was also in Last Summer Wine, so it's a shame because I did really like his voice, but at the same time I'm sure he would like the show to go on, and I suppose in a way I would as well, so it would be nice to see them again all the same, but definitely not the same without him at the same time. Another thing as well is that the van that was used here was also used in The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. That was the first time the A35 van was filmed, and I've got a model of that as well, as you can see here as well. And that features figures of Wallace and Gromit and the bun vac, which is featured in the film, as you can see here. And also as well, that model came of it as the anti-pesto van when they were ridding the town of pests. There was a remote control version as well, as you can see here as well. And I'd say in some ways that one was a little bit better because that one had some weathering on it, and the van had some weathering on it in the film, whereas the Corgi model here is quite immaculate. But then again, if you look at the top bun van, that had some weathering on it as well, and they've put that really nicely onto this model as well. Unfortunately, so the cheese one you can get separate in a box, as you can see here. Unfortunately, the other ones come together in a pack, and I'd rather they had them in separate boxes, because I mean I like to personally keep them in the boxes as well, from sort of collector's point of view, to keep them immaculate, whereas this one you have to open it a bit more. But I do think this box is very nice. As you can see on the box, it tells you about the contents inside of it, and then it's got sketches of Gromit all over it. And if you ever see behind the scenes of Wallace and Gromit, you'll always see the sketches on the storyboards that obviously used to help the ideas of making the film. And so that's been incorporated onto the packaging here, and again on the other box where the cheese one comes separately as well. So I do think that's really nice, and I do think it is a very nice presentation pack overall. And like I said, the cheese one was never actually featured in an episode, but another one that's quite interesting as well is when the van was in its livery for Top Bun, it actually appeared in a TV advert as well, but with you can just about see on this it says Odd Jobs, and that was a television advert that Wallace and Gromit did for the National Trust. And you don't get many close-ups of that van in that advert, but like I said, it's basically been reused as that. And like I said, it's obviously the van's been reused for several different businesses of Wallace and Gromit over the years. Obviously that's what this pack's about as well. It's sort of a shame they didn't do the Odd Jobs one, I think, as well, even though that was only seen for a few seconds in an advert. But it would have been something else I think they could have made. I mean, maybe they'll make another one now I've said it as well. Obviously, they say the van has been very heavily used throughout the years, but also as well, obviously in the very first film, Wallace and Gromit, there was the rocket in A Grand Day Out, and also the motorbike and sidecar, which is featured in a close shave. And the motorbike and sidecar did actually appear in the background in A Matter of Loaf and Death as well. You've probably seen, and again, it was featured in television adverts and other merchandise, but saying unfortunately Corgi hasn't actually made one yet. It'd be nice if they did that as well, I think. And again, it'd be nice if I had some Wallace and Gromit figures as well. And as you've probably seen in my other videos, I do have a collection of Wallace and Gromit figures and other things as well. Always been a fan of Wallace and Gromit from a young age, and I don't think there's ever really been a Wallace and Gromit that have ever disappointed me in a way, but I do think the best one out of all the films was The Wrong Trousers. And it'd be nice if they made some more short films. I think it was always nice when they made the short films. personally. But when I was younger, I did like the Curse of the Were-Rabbit film as well. And I do like all these models, and again, I think what I liked about Wallace Gromit is like in the background of episodes, like the sense of humour. So, like obviously as well, in a Matter of Loaf and Death, the registration plate is donuts, and on the Cheesemobile, made out of letters and numbers, the registration plate's cheesy, and then on the Spick and Spanmobile, it's spanners, but obviously again with letters and numbers. And if you watch I say all the films, there's like puns and jokes in the background, and obviously if you know me quite well out of YouTube, you know I like jokes, and that's my sort of humour in a way. So that's what I've always liked. It's had a real charm about it. And as well, I mean, I was going to make this video anyway, and you probably saw on the community tab that I shared when I brought the individual van, because I had to pre-order these, and when I actually pre-ordered it, I first got the Cheesemobile just by itself, and it came free with this sort of hippie camper van. And as you probably remember mentioning previously, I do sort of like camper vans, particularly obviously Fillmore, who was in the film Cars as well. Got a model of that. But as I said, I got the Cheesemobile first, and then on the community tab, I put a photo of it saying I'd do a review about it, but I had to pre-order this pack of the three of them together, and I didn't realise it was going to come like this. I assumed they were all going to be together in a box, and you can see through the box quite easily, a bit like, say, sort of packaging on the other ones, but obviously I was wrong. And look, so I do like this presentation back, and it does explain to you in detail about the not the cheese one, but it does give a description of the Spick and Spanmobile and the Matter of Loaf and Death van, the Top Bun van. Obviously appearing in them series. It doesn't mention the cheese one, but then I'll say on the back of the cheese one, it does mention all about the cheese one that's been specially done up. And I think in some ways that probably is my sort of favourite one of all of them. Like I said, it's a shame they've not been an actual episode or an advert or anything like that. As far as I'm concerned, it hasn't been. Wallace and Gromit over the past week have been in the news because it's been announced that the supplier, because obviously if you ever seen behind the scenes of Wallace and Gromit, they and many of the characters are made out of plasticine, and the supplier is closing down. But as I always said, really, you shouldn't always believe everything you read in the newspapers, because like anyone could publish anything. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's all true. It could all be lies. Anyone could post anything on the internet these days. It doesn't always make it true. And so everyone was panicking. But then suddenly another article emerged saying fans have been told not to worry because Aardman are sourcing other ways, which, I guess they would be doing anyway. And but part of me did also think at the time, would other shows be affected? Because obviously, like a few years ago, Peter Kay, he did a stop motion version with loads of children characters. I don't know if they're all made out of plasticine or not. Some of them probably are, some aren't. But obviously a lot of them shows have become CGI animated anyway, as well. So, would it mean the end of them as well, or seeing them again? Who knows? But, just make the most of it. But I'm sure there is other suppliers of plasticine, clay or whatever, and there are other ways around it. I'm sure there is. So best thing not to believe everything in the media and just take each day as it comes, I think, is the best alternative, really. If you are into old toys and things like that as well, there was a documentary on Dailymotion. There is a version of it on YouTube. However, the YouTube one isn't the full version, but on Dailymotion is the full version with an extra just over 8 minutes. And it actually features Aardman animations, and James May, he tests a number of old toys. My favourite one obviously being the Model Railway one, and James May's Toy Stories. But on this one, he goes behind the scenes of Aardman. It talks about, how they're made out of plasticine and things like that as well, which is really interesting. So I recommend that you watch that. But like I said, that's a look at the vans a bit more close up. I think one of my only criticisms would be on the Spick and Spanmobile, the megaphone on the Recruit-O-Matic. I think that the megaphone could be a little bit bigger, maybe. But, at the same time, I'm not saying it's easy to make these models, and maybe if it had been a bit bigger, it would have been a bit more delicate. As well, with the wing mirrors on these, I'd say they were quite delicate as well. I did have a little bit of a touch, but very, very carefully, but they do actually seem like they're on quite strongly. But, I don't intend to play with these. I don't know if other people tend to. They're not cheap, so I don't know if other people would do or not. But I've said over the years, I don't think toys are as cheap. Not that they're really toys or models, but you know what I mean. Not as cheap as they used to be, unfortunately. So I imagine a lot of people would be keeping these collecting purposes, maybe. I don't really know. But I do think they're very, very nice, and I do recommend that you get them if you can. And until next time, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.